Hello. I'm GregSolomon. Now folks, what I'd like to do is give you folks a visual in order to illustrate a point, okay? Now let's just suppose, now this didn't actually happen, but let's just suppose a hypothetical situation. Suppose I uploaded a video clip in which I said the following. Hello everyone, I'm GregSolomon. Say, I've got some really great news for the community. A few days ago, my phone rang. I picked it up, and it was Chad Hurley, co-founder of YouTube. Somehow he had gotten hold of my phone number, and he wanted to have a little chat with me. So Chad and I talked a little bit, and he discussed a few things concerning YouTube, and discussed a few ongoing issues with YouTube, and got some of my feedback. And sometime during the course of our conversation, Chad said to me, you know, Greg, what I would like is for you to come out to California and visit me at my home, so that you and I could sit down and talk face to face and just discuss some of the ongoing issues at YouTube, so that I could just bounce some ideas off of you and get some feedback from you. Well, being the reasonable man that I am, and being the responsible member of this community that I am, I heeded Chad's call. And indeed, I went to California and went to Chad's house. He had given me his address when we talked on the telephone. So I pulled into Chad Hurley's driveway, and as I'm getting out of my car, Chad comes out of his front door and says, "Hey, Greg," and he comes down and starts talking to me there in the driveway. A few minutes goes by, and another car pulls into the driveway. I look, and lo and behold, it's Steve Chen. Well, Steve comes out and he says, "Hey, glad to meet you there, Greg," and shook my hand, and we had a nice little chat. We were just getting ready to walk around the side of Chad's house when another car pulled in the driveway. I looked only to see that it was Jawed Karam, the third co-founder of YouTube. So there I was, standing in Chad Hurley's driveway with the three co-founders of YouTube. Well, we walked around the side of Chad's house, and Chad opened up his garage and got the lawn chairs out. We set the lawn chairs up on Chad's deck. He got a few beers out of his refrigerator and passed them around, and there we sat in the lawn chairs on Chad's deck. And they sort of bounced some questions off of me and just ran some things by me and got my feedback as we're sitting out there in the lawn chairs on Chad's deck. They discussed some ongoing issues with me out here on YouTube and kind of got my feedback on different things. And at some point during the conversation that we were having, Chad Hurley looked at me and he said, "You know, Greg, I just want to tell you that I think you are the epitome of what YouTube is all about. Greg, you are the exact type of individual that I had in mind when I put YouTube together. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is people like you who make up the veritable heart and soul of this community." To which I responded, "Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that." And we continued to talk and sit in the lawn chairs out there on Chad's deck, and a few minutes goes by, and then Steve Chen interjects. And Steve says, "Greg, let me get right to the point and tell you why we invited you out here to Chad's house, and let me explain a few things to you. You see, what we would like to do, Greg, we would like to, from time to time, periodically, have a conference call. All the powers that be at YouTube and you, GregSolomon. And we would all get together and talk with you and bounce a few ideas off of you concerning the direction that YouTube is heading in, and concerning some ongoing issues out here at YouTube. And periodically, I or Chad will send you either a personal message or an email or give you a phone call and just let you know what's going on with YouTube, let you know about the direction we're heading in. And also periodically, what I will do, Greg, is I will send you a message and I will tell you what I want the community to know. In effect, Greg, you can be my mouthpiece. You, GregSolomon, will be me, Steve Chen's mouthpiece. And I will tell you what I want the community to know, and after I have told you, you can upload a video clip and disseminate that information to the rest of the community. If you would be so kind as to do that. Well, once again, being the responsible member and citizen of this community that I am, I told Steve that I would be more than happy to be his mouthpiece. I would be more than happy to disseminate any information out to the community that he wants disseminated. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think now you get my point. Say, if I were to upload such a video clip and say such things, I have no doubt that very many of you would send me either video clips or personal messages, and you would say, you know, Greg, now, we know you're on the up and up and we trust you, but could you just show us a little verification of that? You know, that's some pretty heady stuff you told us right there. Chad Hurley giving you a nice pat in the back and chatting with you, and Steve Chen wanting you to be his mouthpiece, and them having conference calls with you and telling you all about the direction that the YouTube community is heading in. And just if you could just show us a little evidence, just a little verification. That's all. Maybe a snapshot of you and Chad out on the deck in the lawn chairs. You know, something like that. And if anyone would ask me for such verification, folks, I wouldn't be insulted whatsoever. In fact, I would think it would be very reasonable for people to ask me for such evidence and such verification. Well, in the same way, I think it's very reasonable for us to be asking Mr. Renetto for evidence and verification of the claims that he's making, because he essentially is making the same claims that I just made in my hypothetical video clip. He's saying he's having conference calls with the powers that be at YouTube, and they are making him privy to information pertaining to the direction that YouTube is heading in. Renetto goes on to say that Steve Chen would like him to act as his mouthpiece and disseminate information to the community periodically that Steve Chen wants to get out there. So I don't think it's unreasonable at all that we ask Mr. Renetto for some evidence. However, Mr. Renetto apparently thinks it's somewhat unreasonable, and that's when he came out with his "Let's Play Some Poker" video, challenging people to call his bluff, saying, I have the evidence, it's right here. It's right here, folks, holding his hands up as if he has some cards in his hand. The evidence is right here, folks. Now, who's going to challenge me? Oh, Mr. Renetto, I, GregSolomon, challenged you. I called your bluff, Mr. Renetto, and Mr. Red Skull also called your bluff, to the tune of $1,000. So you have had your bluff called twice. Now, it has been a full day since I've called your bluff, and you have remained silent. I have not heard anything from you. It's no big deal, Mr. Renetto. All you have to do, you told us you have this hand, this pat hand, which represents the evidence. Just show it to us. You challenged us to call your bluff. Well, your bluff has been called. So now just simply show us what's in your hand. Show us the evidence. What's the holdup here? Now, on the other hand, if you can't produce the evidence, if in fact you can't back up your bluff, Mr. Robinette, then you're only left with two alternatives. Alternative number one, pay up. That's right. You bet $100 to anyone who wanted to bet you. So you will owe Mr. Redscald $100, and you will owe the charity of my choice $100, which address I will give you upon request. So that would be alternative number 1. Pay what you owe. Alternative number 2 would be for you to renege on your bet. And in so doing, you would lose what credibility you have. Now, what I would advise you to do, Mr. Robinette, because it has been a full day since I've called your bluff and you haven't shown any evidence, you haven't shown us your hand. So what I would advise you to do, if you can't back up your bluff, I would advise you to take the first option, the first alternative, and pay up. Pay $100 to Mr. Redscald and send $100 to the charity of my choice. Therefore, for the paltry sum of $200, Mr. Renetto, you will be able to extract yourself from this rather sticky situation that you find yourself in. And what is left of your reputation will remain intact. This is the best route to take as far as saving face. Okay? Certainly much better than option number 2, reneging on the bet. That would be my advice to you, Mr. Robinette. Pay up. Now, I shall give you one more day in which to show us your hand, okay? Because we have already called your bluff. I shall give you one more day to show us your hand. If you have not shown us your hand, then I shall be forced to issue a video clip sometime Sunday morning in which I shall make the statement that Mr. Renetto, Mr. Robinette, has failed the challenge. Mr. Robinette has had his bluff called and yet has failed to meet the challenge. Mr. Robinette cannot back up his bluff. I will give you one more day. It's not a big thing, Mr. Robinette. It's not like there's a lot of stuff for you to do. You were holding your hand up as if you had it right there in your hand, a pat hand. Well, your bluff has been called. All you got to do is hold your hand down and show it to us. See? It doesn't take that much time to do that. As I said, I'll give you one more day to show us what you have. After that, I'm going to have to assume that you can't back up your bluff. Until then, this is GregSolomon saying take care.